Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name's Scyushi. Big shoutouts and thank you to Ubisoft for providing me access to Star Wars Outlaws on the Nintendo Switch 2. Now I've been hearing a lot of discourse online about this game's performance, and being somebody that actually plays video games for a living, I thought it would be really interesting for me to end up putting my 2 cents towards it and showcasing some of the early gameplay for you guys and potentially trying out some of the handheld gameplay. More so that I think is going to be something that I'll just comment on later in the video. I am going to take some time to go through all of the accessibility options because this game has a lot of them. They're really good, and I've already played through this game before. I actually really like Star Wars Outlaws despite the bad rep that it's got. Like, another thing that I'm assuming a lot of people don't know to do right away is turning off all the stupid motion blur and crap. Anyways, that took me like 10 minutes. Let's get into it. Because I already have a full playthrough, what I'm planning on doing with this video is just showcasing the performance on the Switch 2. So we are going to watch this intro cutscene, but from that point on, we're not going to look at any more cutscenes because we already know how they'll operate, which this actually looks fantastic, but it's probably just a movie anyway. Frankly speaking, it looks great. I'm just gonna skip ahead because I already actually personally really enjoy the story in this game. But I think it's gonna be most obvious when we're actually in game and in the open world. This is way better than most people were talking about. What the heck? This is fine. Why were people so like whiny and complaining about performance on this game? This is fine, dude. Especially considering like this game kind of didn't run the best on PC day one, and this is really high fidelity, dude. Like, I was expecting it to look like polygons or something at this point. I think it's safe to say this is not 60 frames. If I had to guess, I'd say it's maybe running at like 30 or 40, but it seems pretty dang stable, dude. Granted, this is the intro of the game. We are in an interior, so it's gonna be a lot different when we actually get to the open world and can see everything. Her hair looks a little bit messed up, but generally speaking, the models and the shadows look a lot better than I was expecting. Yeah, I think people are crazy. Granted, I should reserve my judgments because I know for a fact that this intro is very front-loaded. Like, it looks really beautiful. Those fireworks don't look great, but the world looks awesome. And yeah, I am very surprised that people were complaining about the performance of this game on the Switch 2. This is pretty good. Oh, it's definitely lowered the frame rate a lot in this area though, so we'll see. Yeah, it's still by no means a bad performance. Like, with how people were talking about this game, they were saying like, oh, it runs like crap. It's not worth getting. This is, yeah, this is functional. This is more than functional. I'd play through this, and I think after a while we would get used to the lower frame rate. Like, nobody complained about 30 frames per second on consoles for years until they started to finally experience 60 frames per second. You know what I mean? But we got a pretty lengthy intro before we actually get to the open world. So I think for right now, I'm gonna try this in handheld, and I'm gonna kind of play up into our first few firefights because I think that's where we might start seeing a little bit of a frame dips. Holy crap, dude. Like, dude, okay. Who's complaining about this? It runs better handheld than it did on the TV, like, or maybe it's just that the frame rate is a lot less obvious, but it's a lot lower resolution. So yeah, it runs way better on handheld. Why were people complaining about this? This is awesome, dude. I can't believe how good this looks on the handheld, bro. This blows my mind. And people are whining and complaining about this. Like, I don't mean to sound like, I have my bias towards this game because I actually kind of adore it because it's actually like a really good story and a really good action game. But the fact that people were complaining like so much about the performance is really surprising me. All right, here, this is going to be a little bit unorthodox, guys, but I thought that this way I could kind of show you the actual handheld gameplay. Hopefully there's no like screen glare or anything. I am just recording this from my phone because I don't really have like a camera set up in such a way that I can like record this kind of thing. But yeah, this is absolutely insane that this is working this well in the handheld mode. I will say that I did notice the Switch 2 is getting hotter, but I mean, that's just no surprise. The Switch 2 does kind of heat up with a lot of these games and such, but it does seem to be running like at a more stable frame rate, which makes sense because it's a lower resolution when it's in handheld mode. But yeah, this intro scene is a little bit annoying just because I kind of gotta wander around the area and pick up a bunch of these monies and such so that I can ultimately get enough currency that we can get out of here and so on and so forth. But I just wanted to have a short clip showcasing that this is perfectly fine. Granted, we're still not in the open world, but this is a much better performance than I was expecting. All right, here we go. First battle. Which, I'm assuming I could also do like joystick motion controls, right? It's gonna take me a little bit to get used to it, but it's not bad. Again, I kind of was expecting the performance to have a bit more of a dip there. I am noticing that the laser does still actually emit light, which is kind of surprising. I thought if anything that might have been turned off, but as I've been going through the game and kind of going through these different areas, again, like it all is perfectly acceptable, like for a video game. It actually is like fine. Love how she like bops them on the back of the head so hard that they have a concussion and then proceeds to very carefully place them down. Even the shadows aren't like super sharp and jagged or anything. Like I was very, I don't know, man. I don't want to like oversell it, but I'll just say that I think everyone's been just gaslighting how bad the performance is on this game. This is totally acceptable, and I would play through this again on the Switch 2 if I didn't already put in like an absurd amount of hours on my PC. This is by no means a review or me trying to say like, oh, you should get the game or anything. It's strictly focusing on the performance, and this is, yeah. Like, look at this. This is fine, dude. This is perfectly acceptable for like, especially for a handheld system. This is nuts. Oh, I did actually run into a game-breaking bug right off the bat. I'll tell you guys after this cutscene. Basically, I climbed my way into this area and this cutscene didn't trigger. So I was just roaming around this mansion and there was no enemies and every button I interacted with didn't do anything. Thankfully, I could just load the autosave and it was like maybe a minute back or something like that. So it's not that bad. But just keep that in mind if you end up getting into this area and suddenly you can't do anything else. I also wanted to point out, just for anyone that might want the game to be a bit more manageable and easier, if you don't like the lockpicking minigame or the hacking or pretty much any of the mini games in this game, you can completely turn them off and just bypass them entirely. That's the thing about this game, because it's a AAA game, it's got insane accessibility options and I love it because you can customize everything. We're almost out of here. We're almost at the open world, guys. All right, we're finally on the open world area. I just gotta get my speeder after talking to this idiot. Here we go. Yes. Yes. This is what I would be most interested in with a video showcasing this game on the Switch 2, because this is most of all like going to be what matters, because the open world areas are quite big. We've seen that this game can already handle like the smaller areas just fine.
This thing has some kick.
And honestly, it still looks really freaking good,
Fix the ship. Get to the core.
considering that it's on the Switch 2. Now, granted, this is once again on the TV, so I'm gonna switch to docked mode, or undocked, sorry, so that we can kind of see how it looks handheld, but this is fine. Now, once again, I am here recording this with my phone, so just a heads up. But yeah, this, I mean, I don't know what to tell you guys other than it's running just fine. Like, it's definitely not at steady 60 frames, but I'm not seeing like a crazy ridiculous amount of popping or anything. The grass is obviously fading in, but it's in no way necessarily distracting. I will say there is a lot of like motion blur on the immediate ground underneath me. Oh, whoops, I left the quest area. But yeah, Star Wars Outlaws on the Switch 2 is perfectly acceptable. Anyone who says otherwise is like a psychopath who is expecting like 60 to even 120 frames per second. The fact that this can be played on the go and is totally fine, like it's totally acceptable. At the very least, it's well above a stable 30. Again, I'm just guessing that it's at 40 frames because it doesn't look like it's 30 to me, but that's just off of the top of my head with my eyes. And aside from the screen glare, like this looks great, dude. Like that, I haven't had a game give me this wow moment in like a handheld environment until seeing this. Granted, you know, I skipped on Cyberpunk and a couple other games, and there's a lot of games that look great on the Switch too, don't get me wrong. But for me, like I've clocked in a lot of time into Star Wars Outlaws in the first place. So being able to see this handheld and looking as high fidelity as it does really blows me away. The only other instance where I might question its performance would be the snow planet and such, because there's a lot of like effects flying through the air. But everything that I've come up to thus far, like the game looks really good and also like actually runs quite well. Like sure, you could trade a little bit of the visual fidelity for 60 frames, but I think they made the right call because this just looks, the geometry and everything still looks just as good. The grass still looks fairly layered to me, but anyways, I don't think I need to ramble about this anymore. Decide for yourselves whether or not you think it's worthwhile. I think that this is totally acceptable as far as like performance is concerned, but your mileage will vary on the game itself. I personally really liked it, but the game was not received well beyond that. In any case, thanks to Ubisoft for giving me access to Star Wars Outlaws on the Switch 2. I'm very excited that this is here and available and everything like that, but I personally probably won't play through it again, especially considering we got Silksong tomorrow anyway. But if you made it all the way to the end of this video and didn't just click off of it, I would appreciate if you left a like. You know, these videos are few and far between. I wasn't even expecting to get a copy of this on the Switch 2. It's thanks to the Ubisoft Creator Program, and I'm happy that I could because it means that I can put all of those theories to rest of everyone complaining about performance. Now, if only I could get my hands on Elden Ring, because that's a game that doesn't perform well even on a beefy PC.